I thought I'd make a small informative video explaining why keeping your information private is crucial on the internet and explaining why this is. I encourage anyone to watch this video even if you have no interest in being a private person. I will be giving over 1. Why you should be more of a private person as a whole. 2. How info that you are leaving on the internet will make a virtual footprint on you. 3. How to secure your information and how to make someone searching for your information have a harder time. It's easier than it looks, I promise. Also, I'm not the best at explaining things such as this, so bear with me. A lot of people are out to get info on people as a whole. You would be surprised by how many unprotected websites are out right now with people's personal information like passwords, emails, phone numbers, and even credit cards for shopping sites. Why they are logging this information really is beyond me, but it happens, and that's why credit card theft is so common nowadays. It's at the point where credit card companies have started paying for theft-suspected payments because too many people were canceling their cards. You can find example of this in database leaks or SQL dumps. I will leave a site that will search a mass amount of data breaches to see if you are in them. There are many forms of these sites. Some contain the info that was in the breach and some don't. Either way, it's easy to search for the breach on your own and find the dump. Sometimes websites will attempt to encrypt your info with a hash, but they can usually be easy to decrypt. Anyways, although SQL dumps are less common now, you can see relatively large sites being hacked every single month. If you are curious to see if you yourself are included in any dumps, I will leave a link on how to check. Hackers or private investigators will commonly use these dumps to find info on a target for mass leaking of someone's personal information. Occasionally hackers will get people's personal information and release massive amounts of the user's private data such as emails or even passwords. There are also sites like NordVPN or Uplay, just to name a few, which don't have very good security or very minimal security and are very easy to get stolen or cracked accounts. This is commonly called brute forcing. Usually this is done in mass amounts and are occasionally sold to be resold or just used for gathering info. One thing that I would also like to mention is that people will commonly use similar or exactly the same passwords on multiple sites, which is a huge problem. This is usually due to the fact that people think that password protection sites are unreliable or simply do not trust them. Which I mean, fine, if you don't trust something designed to keep your information more private, then that's fine too. You would be surprised by how easy it is to just use a randomized password on every site you register to. There are sites like Dashlane which will generate you a password that will most likely never be cracked. Of course, sites can still be breached, but that's why they are randomized. None of the passwords will be the same. Keep in mind, brute forcing is not limited to this, and in some cases can be deadly. If you've ever had a job at an office company or a large company like Facebook, they will commonly use a randomly generated password to avoid this. I will get more into how to do this and why it is vital to do so later. If you've ever made someone mad on the internet, which you probably will even if it's your decision to do so or not, then you know that some people are different than others. Going back to the leaking of info I was talking about. Usually people will gather as much info they can on you, and you would be surprised by how easy it is to do so, since all your info like phone numbers or addresses are already released on an engine designed to keep track of your info. If someone has your real name, then they can do a lot if you haven't done anything to protect yourself from this. This is the way most quote-unquote hackers will get your address even if you haven't said anything about yourself to them. I will get into how to avoid this later. Getting someone's personal info is extremely easy, since most of the time someone doesn't think they will be targeted as a person to have their info leaked. Sometimes people don't understand the cruciality in keeping your info private and will leak their phone numbers or anything emails on their own. Children are really impressionable, and if they see someone doing something and getting attention for it online, they might do it themselves. If you really look for these things, then you would see that people are leaking their own info for absolutely no reason other than wanting some form of attention. This is probably one of the easiest things to avoid, but I thought I would mention it. Getting back into the topic of advertisement, I want to talk about how to make it harder for Google or Facebook to get info on you for targeted advertisement or just in general. I will link a video on how to do this. At first this seems like a lot of work, but trust me, it's worth doing it early. Let's move on. Using common passwords is a huge issue in tech and is one of the main reasons people are getting constantly compromised. There weren't many ways to defend against it years ago, but now that it's become such a huge issue, it is extremely easy to solve, but most people don't care enough to do so. Use a password manager such as Dashlane or LastPass to secure your info, and make sure you use a randomly generated password or at least a different password on every site you register to. The easiest way for a hacker to get your city is usually an IP. If you don't know what an IP address is, it's essentially a set of numbers that every modem has. You can use tools online to find info from the IP and use that to get more info on a person. IPs aren't always used maliciously, they are usually used as a form of verification or authenticity. People can also flood your IP address with commonly available tools that will disallow you from using the internet. These are commonly called denial of service attacks, or DDoS for short. Thankfully, because of this, we have proxies which will essentially spoof your IP address and make it harder for a hacker to track you down based off of it. Your personal information is online right now, available to the government for usually ethical purposes. There are also sites that will straight up give your personal information out to anyone that has $5 for service fees. If you've ever used a phone book, then these sites are essentially that. If you really want to keep your info private, then you can make a court order that will remove your name from any of these sites so that your real name isn't linked to any of your info online. They do this by creating a fake name for you and essentially masking your online identity as a whole. Don't share your fake identity if you do this though, because if you do, then the court order will be pointless. If you don't feel like doing this or can't do this, then just use a fake name online. If anyone asks for your real name, give them a fake name. I will link a site that will generate a fake identity for you that you can change to your liking. You can also use these fake identities and release edited variations of them so that if anyone that tries to hack you will be left with a bad footprint. Anyways, this is really all I have to say regarding this matter. I encourage you to show anyone you think needs help with keeping their info private on the internet.